Liam Carter's journey into darkness began when he was just a small child. Born into a loving family in a modest neighborhood, Liam's early life was full of the simple joys of childhood, playing tag with friends, running through fields, and exploring the world with wide-eyed wonder. He was the kind of child who never sat still, always curious about how things worked, whether it was the family toaster or his dad's old radio. His parents, Karen and David, were proud of their son's inquisitive nature and encouraged him to follow his passions. For Liam, that passion was engineering. Even at the age of 5, he loved tinkering with toys and trying to understand the mechanics behind them. But life took a cruel and unexpected turn during one sunny afternoon. While playing catch in the backyard with his father, Liam missed an easy throw. He stared at the ball, now lying on the grass a few feet away, puzzled as to why he hadn't seen it coming. It wasn't the first time his vision had failed him, but it was the first time his parents took serious notice. Soon after, they scheduled an appointment with an eye specialist. The day of the diagnosis was one that would be seared into the Carter family's memory forever. In the dimly lit office, the doctor delivered the devastating news. Liam had been diagnosed with a rare degenerative eye condition known as retinitis pigmentosa. The condition would gradually rob him of his sight over the next several years, with total blindness expected by the time he reached his teenage years. As his parents listened in stunned silence, little Liam didn't fully comprehend the gravity of what was happening. All he knew was that his world was about to change in a way he couldn't yet understand. In the months that followed, Liam's life shifted dramatically. His vision deteriorated faster than the doctors had initially anticipated, making everyday tasks increasingly difficult. His parents sought out treatments and specialists, hoping to slow the progression, but nothing seemed to stop the inevitable decline. By the time he was 7, he struggled to see in dimly lit areas, and reading the blackboard at school had become almost impossible. His teachers tried to accommodate him, giving him larger print textbooks and placing him at the front of the class, but it wasn't enough. Liam's social life also took a hit. His friends, unsure of how to treat him, began to drift away. Some of them tried to be supportive, but others teased him for being different, for tripping over things, or squinting at objects just inches from his face. He heard whispers from classmates who wondered aloud if he would ever be normal again. The isolation was painful, and for a while, he withdrew into himself, retreating into a world of audiobooks where he could escape reality. By the time he was 10, Liam's sight had faded to the point where he could only perceive shadows and faint shapes. The world became a blur, like looking through frosted glass. His parents enrolled him in a specialized program for visually impaired children, where he learned Braille and how to use a white cane to navigate the world. It was a humbling experience for a boy who had once loved to run freely, now forced to relearn even the simplest tasks. Each step with the cane felt like a reminder of what he had lost. But Liam was not one to give up easily. He was determined to adapt, even if it meant doing things differently than before. He developed a keen sense of hearing, noticing the faintest sounds around him, the rustling of leaves, the distant hum of a car engine, the rhythm of footsteps approaching. His other senses heightened in response to his lack of sight, as if his body was compensating for the loss. His parents noticed this resilience and supported him in finding new hobbies that didn't rely on sight, like playing the piano and learning how to code using audio-based software. At school, things were slowly improving. A new teacher, Mrs. Whitmore, took a special interest in him and introduced him to assistive technology. She taught him how to use a screen reader, a device that read aloud the text on a computer screen. For Liam, it was a revelation. It opened up a world of possibilities. Suddenly, he could browse the internet, send emails, and even write code without needing someone to read the screen for him. It was as if the world, which had seemed to shrink day by day, had suddenly expanded once more. By the age of 12, Liam was entirely blind. Yet, despite the complete loss of his vision, he had never felt more determined. The darkness around him was profound, but he had found a new way to see. Using technology as a bridge, he continued to pursue his interest in engineering, not with his eyes but with his mind and his hands. He could visualize the inner workings of machines in his head and feel the connections through sound and touch. Liam's newfound capabilities inspired him to think about other visually impaired people who might not have the same opportunities he did. What if he could use his love for technology to help others? This thought planted the first seed of an idea in his mind, an idea that would eventually grow into a mission to make the world more accessible for those who couldn't see. His childhood dream of becoming an engineer hadn't died. It had simply transformed into a new kind of vision, one that could change lives. As Liam entered his teenage years, The darkness that had gradually consumed his vision now enveloped him entirely. The familiar shapes and colors of the world were gone, replaced by an all-encompassing blackness that left him feeling disconnected and vulnerable. Everyday tasks that once required no thought now became battles. Walking through the school hallways felt like navigating a maze, while simple activities like making breakfast turned into frustrating ordeals. But the challenges extended far beyond physical obstacles. Emotionally, Liam was grappling with a profound sense of loss. The world seemed to shrink, and with it, so did many of the dreams he had nurtured since childhood. His aspiration to become an engineer, a passion sparked by his fascination with how things worked, now seemed almost laughably out of reach. His teachers and even some well-meaning family members often hinted that he might be better off pursuing realistic goals, something suited for someone like him. Their doubts were not spoken aloud but could be felt in the softened tones of their voices and the pitiful looks they gave him. However, Liam refused to let his circumstances dictate the course of his life. Somewhere within the depths of his despair, he found a small but unyielding flicker of hope, a belief that his blindness did not have to be the end of his dreams, but could perhaps be the beginning of something new. His path would be different, yes, but that did not mean it was closed. With an iron will and a growing determination, Liam decided to find ways to adapt rather than give up. He sought solutions that would allow him to interact with the world on his own terms, even if it meant learning to see in ways that others never had to consider. His journey of adaptation started with mastering technology designed for visually impaired individuals. Screen readers that converted text into speech became his new best friends, allowing him to read books and navigate the internet again. Liam spent hours training himself to memorize keyboard shortcuts and commands, which enabled him to move around digital spaces with a kind of speed and precision most sighted people took for granted. He also learned Braille, which gave him access to tactile reading and writing, another step toward reclaiming a sense of independence. Yet, technology alone wasn't enough. He needed to adjust to his new reality in a more holistic way. His senses gradually sharpened, compensating for the loss of sight. He became acutely aware of sounds, from the faintest rustling of paper to the rhythm of footsteps approaching him. His sense of touch became more refined, allowing him to feel the textures on walls and floors, which guided him through the halls of his school without the need for a cane. He began to associate familiar scents with specific locations, like the aroma of freshly brewed coffee in the cafeteria or the faint smell of chalk near the classrooms. In time, Liam developed a mental map of his surroundings, one constructed not from sight but from sound, touch, and smell. Despite this progress, his journey was far from smooth. There were days when the weight of his condition bore down on him heavily. He felt overwhelmed by the effort it took to do things that others found effortless. There were moments of sheer frustration, nights spent lying awake, questioning why he had to face such hardships while others took their abilities for granted. But in those darkest moments, he reminded himself of his desire to build, to innovate, and to not just live in the world as it was but to shape it into what it could be. He refused to be a victim of circumstance. Liam's determination did not go unnoticed. Dr. Kingsley, a special education teacher at his school, had been observing Liam's progress and saw something extraordinary in him, a resilience that went beyond mere adaptation. She took him under her wing, encouraging him to challenge himself further. She introduced him to the world of coding, suggesting it as a new way to express his engineering ambitions. At first, the idea seemed daunting. Coding was complex enough for someone with full sight. How could a blind teenager ever hope to succeed? However, Liam's interest was piqued. He immersed himself in learning programming languages with the help of screen readers and audio tutorials. The first few months were filled with setbacks, mistakes in the code that seemed impossible to debug without sight, frustration over tiny errors that took hours to find, and moments when he questioned whether this endeavor was too ambitious. But Dr. Kingsley was there every step of the way, pushing him to keep trying and reminding him that every mistake was an opportunity to learn. As he became more proficient, Liam started to experience a kind of freedom he hadn't felt in years. Coding wasn't just about learning a new skill, it was about discovering a new way to think, to solve problems, and to create. His blindness did not hinder his ability to code. In some ways, it enhanced it. He developed an ability to visualize the structure of the code in his mind, mapping out algorithms as if he could see them in his imagination. His sense of touch and sound became his guides as he navigated through complex coding projects, using Braille displays and specialized software to help him interact with the digital world. By the end of high school, Liam was no longer just a student, he was an innovator. He began working on small software projects aimed at making life easier for other visually impaired students. He created a program that could help blind people learn new environments by generating 3D soundscapes of their surroundings. His ambitions grew as he realized that his engineering dream was not only achievable, but could be more meaningful than he had ever imagined. Now, it was not just about proving people wrong. It was about using his skills to improve the lives of others who faced the same struggles he did. As Liam continued to deepen his skills in coding and technology, he began to notice gaps in the tools available for visually impaired people. While some assistive technologies existed, they often fell short of providing the level of autonomy that many blind individuals sought. Liam's own experiences had taught him that independence wasn't just about finding workarounds for everyday challenges. It was about breaking down the barriers that made those challenges exist in the first place. The realization sparked a new ambition: to create something transformative that could truly change the lives of people like him. Liam's determination was bolstered by his enrollment in a university known for its strong computer science program. By now, he had developed a reputation as a remarkable student, one whose disability was not a limitation but a unique perspective that enriched his approach to problem solving. In the university's labs, he found himself surrounded by cutting-edge technology and bright minds, creating the perfect environment for innovation. His early projects were small but impactful, simple apps designed to help visually impaired students navigate the campus or convert class materials into audio format. These projects earned him respect from his peers and professors, but they were just stepping stones toward a much bigger vision. One day, while attending a seminar on artificial intelligence, an idea took hold of him that would change the course of his life. The speaker was discussing how AI could be used to analyze visual data, enabling applications such as facial recognition or object detection. For many, this technology was a fascinating example of what computers could do. But for Liam, it was a revelation. It was a way to see without eyes. If AI could be used to interpret visual information, then perhaps it could be adapted to describe the world in real time for those who couldn't see it. The thought ignited a fire within him. Liam spent the next several weeks obsessively researching AI, machine learning, and computer vision, diving into subjects that went far beyond the scope of his regular coursework. He stayed up late into the night, poring over textbooks, online forums, and academic papers. His screen reader's robotic voice became a familiar companion during those sleepless nights, reading aloud concepts that were often too complex to grasp immediately. But Liam wasn't deterred by the difficulty. In fact, the challenge only fueled his desire to push forward. He knew he was onto something revolutionary, even if the path to achieving it wasn't yet clear. The idea began to take shape as he considered how AI could be integrated with wearable devices like smart glasses or even smartphones. He envisioned a system that could take input from a camera, analyze the visual data in real time, and then provide audio descriptions of the environment. This could mean identifying objects, reading signs, detecting obstacles, and even recognizing faces. The possibilities seemed endless, and the more Liam thought about it, the more convinced he became that this could be a game changer for millions of blind and visually impaired people. However, turning this ambitious idea into reality would not be easy. Liam had no prior experience with AI development, and his disability added another layer of complexity to the learning process. But he had something that most others didn't: a personal understanding of the problems he was trying to solve, as well as a profound motivation to make a difference. He began reaching out to professors in the AI field, seeking guidance and mentorship. Some were skeptical of his idea, suggesting that such technology might be too advanced or expensive to develop in a practical manner. But there were others who saw potential in his vision and encouraged him to keep pursuing it. Undeterred by the naysayers, Liam assembled a small team of fellow students who shared his passion for accessibility. They began working together, using the university's resources to prototype their concept. The first few versions of the AI system were crude, often giving inaccurate descriptions or misidentifying objects. At times, the software's flaws led to moments of unintended comedy, like when it mistook a dog for a sofa or labeled a tree as a lamp. But for Liam, these early failures were not discouraging, they were stepping stones. Each mistake provided valuable feedback that helped him refine the algorithms and improve the system's accuracy. The project soon began to gain attention within the university. A local news outlet ran a story on Liam's journey and his mission to make technology more accessible for the visually impaired. The story struck a chord with the community, and soon, Liam and his team were receiving offers of support from various organizations, including funding for further development and access to more sophisticated AI tools. This influx of support brought a new wave of optimism, but it also increased the pressure to deliver results. Liam often found himself wrestling with self-doubt during this period. The more progress they made, the more he realized how far they still had to go. Every time they solved one problem, it seemed like two more would appear. The setbacks were numerous: glitches in the software, compatibility issues with different devices, and occasional disagreements among team members about the best way to proceed. But through it all, Liam remained resolute. His mind often drifted back to the days when he first lost his sight, when he felt like his future had been taken from him. Now, he had a chance to give a future back to others who had faced similar struggles, and that was a purpose worth fighting for. Months of hard work and iteration finally paid off when the team managed to create a functional prototype that could accurately describe various objects and read printed text aloud. When Liam tested the device for the first time, he was overwhelmed by a rush of emotions. For years, the world around him had existed as a soundscape with no visual cues. Now, for the first time in a long time, he was able to see things again, albeit in a different way. It wasn't the same as having natural vision, but it was a start, a new form of sight created by technology. This was only the beginning. The prototype, though promising, was far from being a finished product. There were still countless improvements to be made, more features to be added, and rigorous testing to ensure the system could be used reliably in everyday life. But for Liam, the birth of this idea was more than just a technological achievement. It was a validation of his belief that anything was possible with enough perseverance. The journey was far from over, but for the first time, he could clearly see the path forward. As Liam and his team pushed forward with the development of the AI-powered wearable device, the journey became increasingly challenging. The initial excitement over the functional prototype soon gave way to the harsh reality of product development. Countless technical hurdles, financial difficulties, and the pressure to deliver a device that was not just innovative but truly reliable. The road ahead was long and filled with unexpected twists and turns that would test Liam's resolve like never before. The first major setback occurred when they attempted to refine the accuracy of the AI's object recognition. While the initial prototype could identify basic objects and read printed text, it struggled with more complex scenarios. For instance, the system often confused similarly shaped items, mistaking a chair for a table or identifying a trash can as a backpack. These errors might have seemed trivial to a sighted person, but for someone relying on the device to navigate the world, such mistakes could be dangerous. The team worked tirelessly to improve the algorithms, integrating new datasets and refining the machine learning models. However, each adjustment seemed to introduce new problems, leading to a cycle of progress and regression that left them frustrated and exhausted. Financial difficulties soon compounded the technical challenges. The project had initially gained support from a university and a few local sponsors, but as development dragged on, funding began to dwindle. The team needed more advanced equipment, better software tools, and additional testing materials, all of which required more resources than they had. Liam reached out to various tech companies and venture capital firms in search of investors who might see the value in their work. While some expressed interest, many were hesitant to fund a project with such high risks and uncertain rewards. Rejections piled up, and at times, it felt as though every door they knocked on was being shut in their faces. Amid these struggles, tensions within the team began to rise. Disagreements over the project's direction grew more frequent, with some members advocating for a pivot toward a simpler application that could be brought to market faster. Others, including Liam, believed that compromising on their vision would defeat the purpose of their work. They weren't just creating a gadget, they were striving to build a tool that could revolutionize the way visually impaired people interacted with the world. These internal conflicts took a toll on morale, and some team members eventually left the project, leaving Liam to feel a deep sense of loss and doubt. Liam found himself grappling with a wave of self-doubt during this time. He often lay awake at night, replaying the setbacks in his mind and questioning whether he had overestimated his abilities. He remembered the promise he made to himself to not let blindness dictate his life, yet now he felt trapped in a maze of obstacles with no clear way out. Each failure weighed heavily on him, not just because it slowed the progress of the project, but because it felt like a personal defeat. The device wasn't just an invention. It was a manifestation of his struggle and his hope for a better future. Yet, despite the setbacks, Liam refused to give up. He began attending technology conferences and networking events, meeting others who were working on accessibility solutions or AI-related projects. These encounters exposed him to new ideas and potential collaborators, rekindling his determination. One of these meetings led to a breakthrough partnership with a company specializing in wearable technology. which agreed to provide technical expertise and hardware support in exchange for a share in future profits. This partnership was a turning point, giving the project a much-needed boost in resources and technical know-how. Even with the new support, the road was still rocky. The team's first attempt to integrate the device with real-time navigation features resulted in a series of software crashes that made the device unusable. Months of work seemed to unravel in an instant, and Liam felt the sting of failure once more. But this time, he was not deterred. He took the setbacks as lessons, instructing the team to carefully analyze what went wrong and adjust their approach. They restructured the code, streamlined the system's architecture, and tested the device in various environments to ensure stability. Slowly but surely, the software began to perform as intended. In addition to technical challenges, Liam faced numerous personal struggles. His relentless commitment to the project had taken a toll on his relationships. Friends and family who had once been his biggest supporters grew concerned about his well-being. He had become so consumed with work that he rarely took time for himself, and his health began to suffer. The stress of constantly troubleshooting problems, meeting deadlines, and securing funding led to bouts of exhaustion and even hospitalization at one point. It became clear that while Liam had overcome many obstacles, he had not yet learned how to balance his drive with self-care. Through these trials, Liam discovered a resilience within himself that he hadn't fully realized existed. Each time he fell, he forced himself to rise again, learning not just from the failures but from the way he responded to them. The setbacks, rather than breaking his spirit, began to shape him into a stronger and more resourceful leader. He started to implement a healthier routine, delegating responsibilities more effectively and taking time to recharge. This shift in approach not only helped him recover but also reinvigorated the team, who were inspired by his unwavering commitment. After months of intense development, testing, and refinement, the device finally reached a level of functionality that exceeded all expectations. The AI could now identify objects, read printed text, detect obstacles, and even provide navigation assistance with a level of accuracy that was previously thought unattainable. The team celebrated this milestone, but Liam knew that the journey was far from over. They still needed to conduct extensive real-world testing, gather user feedback, and make further improvements before the device could be launched commercially. However, for the first time in a long while, the light at the end of the tunnel felt within reach. Liam looked back on the past year, the moments of doubt, the endless nights of coding, the financial struggles, and the team disagreements, and realized that each setback had played a crucial role in shaping the final product. It wasn't just a story of overcoming technical obstacles, it was a story of human resilience, a testament to the power of refusing to give up even when the odds seem insurmountable. Liam's journey was far from over, but he had proven that failure wasn't the end, it was just another step on the path to success. As the project moved forward, Liam and his team reached a crucial stage, real-world testing. After months of internal development and overcoming numerous setbacks, it was time to see if the device could make a tangible difference in the lives of visually impaired individuals. The initial results from the beta testing phase would determine whether the project was a breakthrough or merely a hopeful experiment. Liam knew that everything hinged on this phase. They had to prove that the device could reliably function outside the controlled environment of their lab. The team recruited a diverse group of beta testers, each with different levels of visual impairment and from various backgrounds. Some had been blind since birth, while others, like Liam, had lost their sight gradually. This diversity was intentional. Liam wanted to ensure the device could accommodate a wide range of users and adapt to different environments. The beta testing would take place in real-world settings, including busy streets, shopping malls, and public transportation hubs, places where the visually impaired often faced significant challenges. The first day of testing was filled with both anticipation and anxiety. Liam accompanied the testers, not to assist them, but to observe how the device performed and take notes on areas for improvement. As the participants put on the wearable devices, there was a moment of silence, a shared hope among everyone that this small piece of technology could change their world. The AI-powered assistant activated, its voice calmly guiding the users through the crowded streets, identifying obstacles, and providing directions. The initial reactions were mixed. Some testers immediately noticed the benefits, while others struggled to get accustomed to the device's interface. As the testing continued, the device's strengths and weaknesses began to emerge. It excelled in recognizing static objects like benches, doors, and crosswalks, providing users with a new sense of independence. For the first time in years, some of the testers could navigate unfamiliar areas without relying on a sighted guide or a traditional cane. However, The device struggled with dynamic environments, such as busy intersections where vehicles and pedestrians constantly moved in unpredictable patterns. The AI's object recognition lagged in these situations, sometimes providing late alerts that made users hesitant to trust the system completely. These shortcomings were discouraging, but they also presented an opportunity for improvement. Liam and the team gathered all the feedback and immediately began working on software updates to improve real-time processing and motion detection. They spent countless nights enhancing the algorithms, testing the updates with rapid iterations, and incorporating machine learning models that could better predict and understand the behaviors of moving objects. The beta testers continued to participate actively, offering valuable insights that helped shape the ongoing development. During this phase, a breakthrough occurred that would transform the project. One of the testers, a young woman named Anna who had lost her sight due to a car accident, shared a profound observation with Liam. She noted that while the device was helpful for identifying objects and obstacles, it didn't always communicate the context of the environment in a meaningful way. For example, it could tell her that there was a coffee shop nearby, but it didn't convey the atmosphere, whether it was crowded, quiet, or had a live band playing. She suggested that the device could be even more impactful if it could provide a richer, more nuanced description of surroundings. Inspired by Anna's feedback, Liam and the team embarked on an ambitious expansion of the AI's capabilities. They began working on a new feature they called environmental awareness, where the device would not only identify objects but also describe the overall context. The AI would analyze audio inputs, such as ambient sounds, and integrate that data to offer a more detailed picture of the environment. For instance, instead of simply stating, "coffee shop nearby," the device would say, "there is a quiet coffee shop on your right. It sounds like there are a few customers inside, and soft music is playing in the background." This innovation aimed to offer visually impaired users a more immersive experience of the world, allowing them to perceive it in a way that went beyond just avoiding obstacles. The development of the environmental awareness feature was challenging, requiring advanced sound recognition technology and sophisticated AI algorithms that could interpret subtle audio cues. The team experimented with various techniques, such as training the AI to recognize different types of sounds, like the clinking of dishes, conversations, or the noise of traffic, to add context to the user's surroundings. They also worked on optimizing the device's battery life and processing power, as these new features required more energy and computational resources. Despite the technical hurdles, progress was steady, and the beta testers reported that the new feature greatly enhanced their experience with the device. Word of Liam's work began to spread, attracting attention from tech companies, media, and advocacy groups for the visually impaired. His story of turning personal adversity into technological innovation resonated with many, and soon, he was invited to present his project at a major accessibility conference. The opportunity was both thrilling and intimidating, as it was the first time the device would be demonstrated publicly to a large audience. Liam knew this was his chance to showcase not just the device, but the transformative potential of technology when driven by empathy and the desire to make the world more inclusive. The night before the conference, Liam couldn't sleep. He kept going over his presentation in his mind, thinking about the journey that had brought him here, from the initial diagnosis that had shattered his childhood dreams to the countless setbacks and personal sacrifices along the way. He thought about all the people who had helped him, from his supportive family to his dedicated team and the brave beta testers who believed in the project. This presentation was more than just a demonstration of technology. It was a declaration that blindness was not a barrier to innovation, and that anyone, regardless of their limitations, could make a difference in the world. The day of the presentation, as Liam took the stage, he felt a wave of emotions wash over him: excitement, nervousness, and a profound sense of purpose. He spoke about his journey, the struggles he had faced, and the resilience it took to keep going. He then demonstrated the wearable device, showing how it could identify objects, detect obstacles, and describe the environment in a way that empowered users to navigate their surroundings with greater confidence. The audience watched in awe as a visually impaired beta tester demonstrated the device live on stage, walking confidently and receiving real-time feedback about the environment. The presentation ended with a standing ovation. Liam was overwhelmed with gratitude and relief. He had not only proven the device's potential, but had also shown the world that innovation could arise from adversity. It was a victory not just for him but for everyone who faced their own struggles and continued to push forward. With the success of the public demonstration, Liam's life quickly shifted into a new phase. The wearable device's capabilities gained widespread attention, attracting interest from tech companies, non-profit organizations, and even government agencies focused on accessibility initiatives. However, Liam had bigger aspirations than just seeing his invention adopted commercially. He wanted to build a movement that would create lasting change for the visually impaired community. He envisioned a world where blindness was not a limitation, and accessibility was a standard, not an afterthought. Liam began by assembling a coalition of like-minded individuals, including technology experts, disability advocates, and policymakers. His first goal was to expand the accessibility features beyond his own device, making a push for all technology to include enhanced support for visually impaired users. He argued that accessibility should be embedded into every stage of product development, from the design phase to deployment. This vision was ambitious, but Liam believed that by setting the bar higher, the industry would be forced to innovate and make technology more inclusive for everyone. He initiated a series of workshops and hackathons that brought together software developers, designers, and engineers from various companies to collaborate on creating solutions for the visually impaired. The events were not just about developing new products. They aimed to educate participants on the real challenges faced by people with visual impairments and inspire them to consider accessibility in every aspect of their work. Liam invited visually impaired individuals to share their experiences at these events, providing first-hand insights that would guide the participants in their projects. These efforts began to yield significant results. Developers who participated in Liam's workshops started implementing accessible design principles in their own projects. Major tech companies took note, incorporating more robust screen reader support, voice navigation, and haptic feedback into their products. Liam's influence was growing, and so was his reach. Media outlets covered his work extensively, describing his journey as not just one of personal triumph, but as the start of a technological revolution aimed at breaking down barriers for people with disabilities. Yet, as with any ambitious undertaking, there were setbacks and challenges. Some companies resisted the call for more comprehensive accessibility features, citing cost and complexity as barriers. Liam encountered skepticism from certain industry leaders, who questioned the feasibility of creating technology that could accommodate all levels of impairment without sacrificing performance or usability for sighted users. Moreover, there was the persistent issue of funding. While the initial attention had brought in some investments, sustaining long-term projects and expanding the reach of the movement required substantial financial backing. To address these issues, Liam took a more aggressive approach to fundraising. He began reaching out to investors not just as a technologist, but as an advocate for social change. He presented statistics showing the size of the disabled market segment, arguing that accessible technology was not just a moral imperative, but also a smart business move. His presentations didn't focus solely on profitability, but emphasized the transformative impact that accessible technology could have on millions of lives. This approach resonated with some investors, who saw an opportunity to contribute to a cause with both ethical and economic benefits. One of the most significant moments came when Liam was invited to testify before a legislative committee on technology and accessibility. It was a chance to influence policy at the highest level, advocating for new regulations that would require companies to include accessibility features in all digital products. Standing before the committee, Liam felt a familiar mix of anxiety and determination. He recounted his own experiences and struggles, illustrating how small changes in technology had significantly impacted his quality of life. He then laid out a compelling argument for why accessibility laws should be updated to reflect modern technological capabilities. The testimony was well received, and soon after, legislation was introduced that encouraged the development of inclusive technologies, providing tax incentives to companies that made significant strides in accessibility. It was a major victory for Liam and the movement, a step toward ensuring that future generations would have better access to technology regardless of their physical abilities. As momentum grew, Liam's company expanded its operations internationally, partnering with organizations that supported people with various disabilities. They began training programs for the visually impaired, teaching them how to use the new technologies that were becoming available. Liam was particularly passionate about empowering others to not only use technology, but also to contribute to its development. He started a scholarship fund for visually impaired students pursuing degrees in technology-related fields, encouraging them to become the next generation of innovators. However, the expansion wasn't without personal sacrifices. The relentless pursuit of his mission took a toll on Liam's health and personal life. Late nights, constant travel, and the stress of running a growing company left him exhausted. There were moments when he doubted whether the movement would achieve the lasting change he envisioned. Yet, every time he met someone whose life had been transformed by the device, People who could now perform daily tasks independently or pursue careers they once thought unattainable, he was reminded why he had started this journey. Liam's movement also began to inspire a cultural shift. More companies started prioritizing accessibility in their product development, not because they were legally obligated, but because it became a marker of ethical corporate behavior. The term accessible by design entered the mainstream, with an increasing number of consumers demanding products that considered the needs of all users. Schools, too, began incorporating lessons about disability awareness and accessible technology into their curricula, ensuring that future designers and engineers would have a foundation in inclusive design principles. The movement's growth brought together a global network of innovators, advocates, and visually impaired individuals who shared a common goal: to create a world where technology served as a bridge, not a barrier. Liam's vision was coming to fruition, but he remained focused on the long road ahead. The fight for accessibility was far from over, and he continued to push the movement forward, knowing that the ultimate success would be measured not just by the products created, but by the lives changed. With the movement gaining momentum, Liam knew that it was time to take his vision even further. He no longer wanted to just create tools for accessibility. He aimed to redefine the boundaries of what was possible for the visually impaired. The wearable device he had developed was only the beginning, and now, he envisioned a world where assistive technology could enable visually impaired individuals to interact with their surroundings in ways that extended beyond the capabilities of those with perfect vision. Liam and his team began working on the next phase of innovation, incorporating augmented reality, AR, and artificial intelligence, AI, into their existing technology. Their goal was to create a device that could not only describe the world, but also anticipate a user's needs. For example, if a user entered a busy intersection, the device would recognize the environment, providing real-time information about traffic signals, the flow of vehicles, and nearby obstacles. It would also offer audio cues and vibration alerts to help guide the user safely across. For indoor navigation, they aimed to develop features that could read signs, recognize doors, and even detect the presence of other people in a room. To achieve these breakthroughs, Liam partnered with leading AI and AR researchers, assembling a team that included neuroscientists, software developers, and even artists specializing in sound design. Together, they worked tirelessly on the prototype, pushing the limits of what the technology could accomplish. There were countless challenges, from processing speed to battery life, and ensuring the accuracy of the information being presented to users. But each obstacle only fueled Liam's determination to succeed. While working on these ambitious technological goals, Liam also faced a new kind of struggle: balancing innovation with ethical considerations. The integration of AI and AR raised questions about privacy and autonomy. Would these new features give too much control to the technology rather than the user? Could they inadvertently make visually impaired individuals too dependent on machines for everyday tasks? Liam was keenly aware that, while technology could empower, it could also come with unintended consequences. Therefore, he established a set of ethical guidelines for his team, focusing on enhancing human ability rather than replacing it. As the prototype evolved, it became clear that this new technology could be groundbreaking not just for the visually impaired, but for anyone who needed enhanced situational awareness. Athletes, first responders, and even military personnel showed interest in how the technology could be adapted for various applications. However, Liam was resolute in his mission. The primary focus would always remain on making the world more accessible for those who needed it most. To ensure that the device stayed true to its purpose, Liam conducted extensive user testing, involving hundreds of visually impaired individuals from different backgrounds. The feedback was invaluable, as the users provided insights that could not be gathered in a lab environment. Many expressed how the device allowed them to perform tasks they had never thought possible, like navigating a crowded subway station or attending a music concert without needing additional assistance. There were stories of people regaining a sense of freedom, independence, and self-confidence that they hadn't felt since losing their sight. One memorable moment came when a young musician, who had been blind since birth, tested the device in a concert hall. With the AR features, the device could map out the stage and seating arrangement, allowing the musician to find his way to the piano and even interact with the audience before performing. It was a profound experience, not just for him, but for Liam as well, as it demonstrated how the device could unlock new possibilities and enable people to pursue their passions without limitations. As the device neared completion, the next big challenge was launching it to the world. Liam and his team planned a major event to unveil the new technology, inviting media, tech enthusiasts, and leaders from the disability community. The goal was not just to showcase the product, but to highlight the stories of those who had been part of the development process. Liam wanted the world to see the potential in people whom society often underestimated, proving that the limitations people face are not always due to their disabilities, but to the lack of accessible solutions. On the day of the launch, the venue was buzzing with anticipation. The stage was set, and the audience included people from all walks of life: entrepreneurs, investors, accessibility advocates, and tech professionals. As the lights dimmed, a short video played, showing real-life stories of individuals who had used Liam's device during testing. The footage included a college student independently navigating a sprawling campus, a parent reading bedtime stories to their child for the first time, and a musician performing on stage. Each story was a testament to how technology could reshape lives and bridge the gap between ability and disability. When Liam finally took the stage, he felt a mixture of nerves and excitement. He began his presentation not by talking about the features of the new device, but by sharing his own journey from darkness to innovation. He recounted his struggles, his failures, and the doubts he faced from others, emphasizing that every step forward had been driven by a belief that there was always a way to overcome even the greatest obstacles. He spoke not just as an inventor, but as someone who had lived the challenges that his technology was designed to solve. The unveiling of the new device was met with a standing ovation, but what moved Liam the most was seeing the tears in the eyes of some of the visually impaired guests. It was a moment of shared triumph, where the audience wasn't just celebrating a technological achievement, but a shift in society's understanding of what was possible for people with disabilities. Following the launch, demand for the new device surged, and Liam's company experienced rapid growth. The technology was adopted by educational institutions, workplaces, and public venues, setting a new standard for accessibility. Beyond the financial success, the impact of the device extended far and wide, influencing policy changes and inspiring new research into assistive technology. It was a defining moment not just for Liam's company, but for the accessibility movement as a whole. Despite the applause and recognition, Liam remained grounded, always reminding himself of the bigger picture. He knew that while his device could open doors, true accessibility required a cultural shift where society as a whole embraced inclusion. He continued to advocate for better infrastructure, more inclusive design, and greater opportunities for people with disabilities in all fields. The device's journey from prototype to global impact was a testament to Liam's philosophy. Limitations are not set in stone, they are challenges waiting to be overcome. It was a belief that had carried him through the darkest times and into the light of innovation. And now it was a message that resonated with millions around the world, encouraging them to look beyond what they could see and imagine a future where everyone, regardless of their abilities, could reach their full potential. Liam's innovative device quickly took the world by storm. What had started as a personal dream had now transformed into a movement that was making a profound impact on the lives of millions. For people who had spent years struggling with visual impairments, his invention became a beacon of hope, a tool that opened up new possibilities and empowered them to live more independently. The device's success wasn't just measured in sales, it was measured in the life-changing stories that began to pour in from every corner of the world. As news of the technology spread, governments, educational institutions, and private companies scrambled to adopt it. Schools began integrating the device into their curriculum for visually impaired students, while companies rethought their workplace accessibility policies to ensure that all employees, regardless of their abilities, could benefit from the technology. Liam's company, once a small startup, was rapidly expanding its reach, with offices opening in multiple countries and partnerships forming with non-profit organizations dedicated to helping the blind and visually impaired. Yet, amidst this rapid growth, Liam remained steadfast in his commitment to ensuring that his technology would remain accessible and affordable for everyone who needed it. Despite the overwhelming success, the demands of leading a rapidly growing company began to weigh heavily on Liam. He found himself caught in a whirlwind of meetings, product launches, and interviews. The pressure was intense, and for a moment, it felt like the darkness he had battled so many times in his life was returning. He was physically and emotionally exhausted, struggling to balance his role as a CEO with his passion for innovation. There were nights when he would sit alone, questioning whether he could keep up with the pace, whether he was truly making the difference he had set out to achieve. But as Liam struggled with the demands of his new life, he found inspiration in the stories of the people his device had touched. There was Maria, a young girl who had been born blind and was using the device to attend school for the first time, reading and writing alongside her sighted peers. There was also Robert, an elderly man who had lost his sight late in life and had been living in isolation, until Liam's device gave him the confidence to navigate his neighborhood and reconnect with his friends. Every story rekindled Liam's sense of purpose and reminded him why he had started this journey. Determined to keep pushing forward, Liam decided to make some changes. He took a step back from some of his CEO duties, delegating responsibilities to a capable team of leaders who shared his vision. This allowed him to focus more on innovation and advocacy, on finding new ways to improve the lives of the visually impaired and on breaking down societal barriers that still stood in their way. With more time to think creatively, Liam began to explore how his technology could evolve to serve not only the blind, but also those with other disabilities. He saw a future where his company wouldn't just be known for one device, but for a range of tools that made the world more accessible to all. As part of this vision, Liam launched an awareness campaign called Beyond Vision, aimed at changing the public's perception of people with disabilities. The campaign highlighted the achievements of individuals who had accomplished extraordinary things with the help of his device, people who had started businesses, traveled the world, or taken up new hobbies that were once out of reach. Beyond Vision wasn't just about promoting a product, it was about challenging society to see people with disabilities not as limited, but as individuals with limitless potential. The campaign quickly gained traction, with celebrities, politicians, and influencers rallying behind the cause. Liam became a sought-after speaker, sharing his story on international stages and advocating for greater inclusivity in technology and design. Through the Beyond Vision initiative, he helped push for new laws to ensure that accessibility standards would become a requirement, not an afterthought. He was no longer just an inventor, he was a changemaker, leading a global movement toward a more inclusive world. As his company's reach grew, Liam's personal life took a meaningful turn. He reconnected with old friends and formed new relationships, surrounding himself with people who shared his passion for making a difference. He visited schools and community centers, spending time with children and adults who used his device, listening to their stories and learning from their experiences. These visits didn't just fuel his work, they healed parts of him that he hadn't realized were still wounded from years of struggling in the dark. In a particularly poignant moment, Liam was honored at a major international technology summit, where he received an award for his contributions to accessibility. Standing on the stage in front of thousands of people, he couldn't help but reflect on how far he had come. From a boy who had been told his dreams were impossible, to a man who was showing the world that anything was achievable with determination, innovation, and heart. The applause was thunderous, but in that moment, it wasn't the recognition that mattered. It was the knowledge that his journey had given hope to others, that the darkness he once feared had now become a source of light for millions. In the years that followed, Liam's company continued to thrive, expanding into new areas of accessibility technology and setting new benchmarks for inclusivity in tech. His story, a testament to resilience and the power of vision, inspired a new generation of innovators to think beyond limitations and pursue what others deemed impossible. And through it all, Liam remained grounded, always remembering that his greatest accomplishment wasn't just the technology he had created, but the lives he had touched and the barriers he had helped break down. He had come full circle, from a world of darkness to a future that shined brightly not only for him but for countless others. Liam's journey wasn't just a story of overcoming adversity, it was a story of changing the world, one innovation at a time.